Hi, my name is Jess. I'm going to talk about my struggles with drug addiction. Just a little background. I'm 22 years old. I battled the use of drugs and alcohol for 6 years. I started when I was 16, and I have been clean since May 25th, 2017. All my life, I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like there was always a problem. I felt like I was never happy, and I didn't know how to get outside myself. And when I found drugs, I thought it was the wonderful escape from reality that I was looking for. It started with marijuana, but very quickly progressed to anything that I could find to get me outside of myself. And at first, everything was fun. Everything was a party. I slowly started slacking in school. I started not hanging out with friends that were good for me. I started losing my relationship with my parents and my family, but everything was okay because I felt high, and that's all I really cared about. Within a couple years, I had dropped out of high school. I had gotten shingles on my face and from stress, and when I recovered from that, I decided that I just wasn't going back. I had no motivation and I didn't care. I just kept wanting to get high. Soon after that, things just got worse, but I told myself that I was working 2 jobs, so everything was okay, and I was living an adult life. I had a boyfriend, and I lost that relationship when I started using methamphetamine, which is my drug of choice. Soon after that, everything went downhill. I flipped a car, and in the same year, I crashed 2 more cars. I was 302'd, which is a voluntary commitment by my parents, and at that point, I stopped coming home. I stopped my relationship with them completely. I didn't want them to see me. I didn't want to have to deal with them. I just wanted to feel good and get high all the time, and it completely took over my life, and I didn't want to change. I didn't want to do anything about it, and I thought everything was okay because I was the only one getting hurt out of this, which is what I thought, but obviously that's not the truth. I lost my job, and my drug addiction had gotten so bad that I couldn't get another job. I would apply for places, but no one would hire me, so I stopped working for 2 years. I quickly got involved with a horrible group of people, and soon lived with someone, and we lived in the attic, and when this person went to jail, I stayed at that house, but there was so much chaos and destruction and drugs going on at the house, and at this point, my parents had changed the locks. They didn't want anything to do with me. So I just said that was it, I'll stay there. One day, I woke up and I was in my friend's dad's bed, and he had raped me, and he had kept me there with drugs, and I said, this is my life now, and I'm going to keep doing it. And so for 6 months, I stayed there doing methamphetamine and causing a lot of harm to myself. So it quickly snowballed into the effect where I had dug my hole so deep that there was no glimmer of hope, no way that I could get out of it, and that was just the life that I was going to live, and I had made peace with that, and I was okay with that. So then I hung out with the wrong groups of people because they had what I wanted, drugs. I was very selfish, and I was putting anything in my body, doing anything I had to get drugs, and I was okay with it. I had no conscience, I had no love, I had no healthy relationships. So pretty soon after that, I just would bounce around house to house, and I would hear voices from the methamphetamine use, and I caused so much turmoil in my head that I just completely made my own reality, and I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't do anything. I just stayed in a house, in a room, in a basement, wherever I was at for that moment, got high. I never thought of consequences. I never thought of tomorrows. I never thought of anything to help me or to better myself. I went to jail. I got a DUI, and I kept missing court, so I had a bench warrant, and I went to jail. I got out of jail, and I moved in with my grandparents. So that opened a door to a little bit of love and a little bit of family, and I got the sense that I was cared for and that that's where I should be, but I didn't know how to stop using drugs. So I was in an intensive outpatient program, and I was getting high the whole time, but there were seeds planted there where you can do something different, or you don't have to live this way your whole life. And even though I was struggling and battling because I didn't know how to make that possible, and it didn't seem like it was possible for me after living that way so long, I had people and these places that were trying to help me tell me, you can do this, you can be something different. So eventually I went back to jail because I wouldn't stop getting high. But when I got out this time, they sent me to a rehab, and I paid attention and I took suggestions, and I thought, I'll just try this, and if I want to get high again, it'll always be there, but for a little bit, let's try something different. And the main factor there is that I wanted to change at that point, because I don't think anyone battling addiction will change because their parents tell them to change, or change because their probation officer will tell them to change. They really have to be done and sick and tired of themselves and sitting with themselves, and then they'll be ready to change. And I felt like I was ready to change, but I didn't know how. So when I got out of the rehab, I moved back in with my grandparents, and I got a job, and I did these little things that they told me to do that would help me. I am part of a 12-step program, and being around a group of people that are trying to do the same thing you're doing and have been the same places that you have been is such a great help to me that I can't even describe it, because through my years of addiction, I've always thought, well, no one's had it this bad. I should just keep getting high. If you lived the life that I lived, you'd keep getting high. And that's not true, because everyone goes through battles, but the point is that you can overcome them and you can become something of them. And through this, I formed a relationship with my higher power. I'm a very spiritual person. I've never believed in a God growing up or anything. I've never believed in anything. I never even believed in myself. So I had these little things implanted in my head, and slowly they started taking place. And I have my family back, and they trust me, and I see them, and I have a relationship with them. And I have a younger brother, and he looks up to me, and he can come to me for advice, and that was never the case before. I was always the family member that they hid, that they didn't want to talk about, that they were ashamed of. And that's not me today, because even though I have a lot to work on, I still have overcome a lot, and I can say that proudly today. And that's another thing, is that I have a sense of peace in myself today. And if I have gotten anything from being clean from drugs, it's that sense of peace, because like I said, this all started because my life growing up, I never had peace. I never thought I was good enough. My mind always told me that I'll never be anything, I'll never be happy. And today, with the group of people that I'm in, with the choices that I make by doing the next right thing, I have peace, and I can go to bed at night and rest my head and say that I've done a good job today. And that in itself is a reward of being clean. And if that's the only thing I get, then that's enough, because internally that's a wonderful blessing for me. So even though I have a lot to improve on and a lot to work on, I believe that I've come a long way, and the joys that I have today, how grateful I am today, there's nothing that I can do or say that I want to go back out to the life that I was living. And my worst day now does not even come close to my best day in my drug addiction. And if you know anyone struggling with this battle, it's a rough thing because, like I said earlier, people can do all they can and wear themselves out, but I had so much love and support, and I didn't want to change until I wanted to change, and I didn't want to look at myself until I thought that I was ready. And it was hard to face that now, but in that time, I didn't even see that I was causing harm to those people, and I didn't look at it what it was because I was so caught up in myself and what I had to do to get my next fix, to get my next high. And I didn't mean to intentionally hurt anyone. And if you have a loved one struggling with addiction, they probably don't mean to intentionally hurt you too. They're just going through a lot of pain themselves. And if you're struggling with addiction, there's a better way. And the most important thing I had to learn is that you can't do it all on your own, because for a very long time I thought I had all the answers and I thought that I could do this on my own, and I didn't want to get help because I was broken, and I'm still broken. But there's people that understand you and want nothing more but for you to live a better life and don't want anything in return. And there's just a better way to live, and I'm very thankful and I'm very grateful. And nobody wants to be a drug addict. I didn't, when I was younger, I wanted a good job. I wanted a great life. I didn't wake up in the morning and say, oh, this is how I want to live my life. But it happened, and I just have to deal with it and deal with the consequences and work on helping others now and being a better person one day at a time, and that's all I can do. And I'm very thankful for the life that I live, and I'm very thankful for this second chance of life and being able to learn how to love myself and love others in the life that I live.